Master the business of speaking with your hosts, Taylor and Austin. You're listening to Technically Speaking.
Welcome to another episode of Technically Speaking. We're your hosts, Taylor and Austin, and in today's episode, we're talking about what it looks like to run a true thought leadership business. Now, so often we see people label their business based on how they deliver. So I'm a speaker, I'm a coach, I'm a consultant, I'm an author, so on. The challenge with all of this is that it does nothing to explain what your expertise is or the problems that you solve. Now, we've brought in a dear friend of ours, Dr. Romie Mushtaq, who we believe is running a true thought leadership business, to unpack her business, unpack her model, unpack her journey, and talk about where she's going from here. Now, Dr. Romie is also known as the STEMinist in Stilettos, and she brings over 20 years of authority and research in integrative medicine and in wellness and in neurology to not just deliver programs, but create cultural change. She helps organizations build a culture of wellness so that their people can manage stress better, improve mental health, and optimize their performance. Now, Dr. Romie is also the Chief Wellness Officer for Evolution Hospitality, where she scaled a mindfulness and wellness program to over 7,000 employees. And Dr. Romie is running a true thought leadership business. And in today's episode, like I said, we're going to unpack all of that, how she got here, where she's going from here, and just get a peek behind the curtain of what a true thought leadership business looks like. As always, we hope you enjoy this one and stick around until the end for some awesome resources. See you in there. Woo! Yeah, Austin. I actually like the. Would you bump? You should be like the intro for our podcast.
It'll be that plus Romie dancing.
Yes.
That's the combo.
I have to teach you these Bollywood moves.
Heck yeah! Oh
yes.
So how are we? Yes. Can we learn this right now?
It's like you're screwing a light bulb. Yes, with both hands, like screw the light bulb. Yes, and then other side, screw the light bulb. Yes, or the other one is I'm number one. That's another Indian auntie move. Yes.
These are dances I can do, right? Because I can do it while stationary. Yeah.
Anything with arms, like, if the hips though, not happening. Just arms.
Me too. I live in a rhythmless nation too. So seated, it all looks beautiful. When you have to put hips, knees, and feet together, it's like a disaster.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep. It's embarrassing. I'm just waiting until I'm the next TikTok person that's getting just hammered online because I tried to dance somewhere. So today will not be that day, people. I got the number one thing. I got the screw the light bulb. I'm nailing that part. So watch out.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, you're both officially Punjabi brothers now. So yes.
Ooh, well, thank you. Wow, we hit a milestone today, technically speaking.
It's an honor.
Nice work.
Thank you.
Man, this has been a long time in the making, Dr. Romie. Welcome to Technically Speaking. It is so good to have you here today.
Woo-hoo. I'm so honored. I have been geek girl fangirling over this podcast and all of you since we all met. And I look back at that journey of how different the three of us are. And when I first met you all and you dove into my business, good God, even as a doctor, none of us saw this pandemic coming. And I'm just so proud of both of our businesses, of where we are today and getting to gather and speak today. So thank you for having me on a momentous occasion.
For sure. Yeah. What a journey it's been. Holy cow.
Yeah. It speaks to value creation, right? I think at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what's happening out there in the world. I think something that the three of us can agree on is that if you just focus on doing your best work, regardless of the external circumstances, probably it's going to be okay. It's probably going to be okay. So some persistence, some ups and downs, some tears, and some laughs along the way, probably. But either way, we make it out. So good job for being an example of that.
We did, but I'm going to add one more thing to your list that was crucial for our team was comfort food. We allowed ourselves comfort food. Yes.
Yep. Lots of agrees with you. For sure. Yeah. The COVID 30. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So what is everybody's favorite comfort food? Because we asked this in the Brain Shift Institute from all of our corporate clients. We actually allow comfort food on our protocol. So right now when we're recording this, it's like a Florida hot summer and mine is mango ice cream is my comfort food.
Oh my goodness. I just started drooling.
Oh my gosh. Mango Talenti's. I don't know if that's
mango
or not, but like their mango gelato. Oh my gosh. It's like eating a mango that's just been turned into ice cream somehow. It's magic. You're
Oh.
going to test that
Yeah.
out. So
Okay, so we have
that's on my
2
list
for
too.
mango. What else are the other comfort foods? What do you think here?
Oh, mac and cheese for me, without a doubt. So homemade
Classic.
mac and cheese, loads of it's just strings of cheese when you pull out
Yep.
the pasta. That's my
Of course.
vibe. Yep.
Yep.
Of course, not really great in the summer. Winter, it's
Ugh.
really nice. It's pretty heavy in the summer, but yeah,
Yeah.
definitely mac and cheese though.
It's a good one. Yep. Here's another good summer one for you guys. There's this company called True Fruit, and they do like frozen fruit covered in chocolate, and
Oh,
they are incredible. They have so my favorite is they do milk chocolate raspberries and then dark chocolate covered cherries, and like it's the best summer snack on the planet, and also it doesn't break the calorie bank, so you can still like
boom.
fit in your
Win-win.
swimsuit and stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
amazing. So,
Austin, you're officially winning today for the
oh,
comfort
good.
food
Thank
challenge.
you.
I
That's
mean,
nice. Heck yeah.
calorie, added fruits in it, and chocolate was involved. So, yay.
Right?
Man, now I'm
Yeah.
just feeling like we should have a podcast just where we eat comfort food and talk about it.
This
That'd be a
isn't a
good
bad
show.
idea. I'm game.
We just ship out. We all
do
eat the
it.
same comfort food and then just have a show about it. It sounds
Yeah.
Right?
awesome.
Not what you expected when a brain doctor is coming on the
I know. Hey, you
podcast.
know what? That's we have no expectations at this point,
Yeah,
Dr.
right.
Romie, so
It's
it can go anywhere.
loose here, technically
Yeah, that's
speaking.
right,
So
for sure.
Oh,
All right.
man.
Well, without further ado, okay. So we do a little bit of digging, before we start a show. Now, luckily, we've had the advantage of knowing you for a long time at this point, and so one of the phrases that you've coined, and you kind of talk about this, is STEMinist in stilettos. I've always loved this phrase. Where did that come from? Let's talk about that for a second.
I am going to take a moment here and honor my mother and father who are immigrants. And my dad came to the United States at a time there was a shortage of doctors and scientists in this country from India. And my mom came a couple of years later from Pakistan when they got married. And when I was born, my first languages were Hindi, Urdu, and Punjabi, and some English because I was watching Sesame Street back in those days and Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, like all kids in that generation. And when we went to school, um, they almost wanted to turn me away from the public school system. And I got the label, which has a negative connotation back then, but unfortunately, even today, ESL, English is a second language, to which my father just boldly stood there and said, "No, technically it's her third language. I have one daughter and she will become a doctor." And
Wow.
so, what I'll say is for anyone that's listening, and if you grew up playing sports and you went into college for sports, you probably went to baseball camp and tennis camps. I think I was trained in that same way of academic excellence from my parents, my Indian aunties that often, are the butt of all the jokes in my keynote lectures. I read encyclopedias in my free time. I was always made sure that I was well ahead of my peers in math and science. And so that was my foundation, where I now entered neurology at a time in the United States where less than 5% of the brain doctors in America were women.
Wow.
I didn't know what a glass ceiling was. All I know is I arrived and it was suffocating me when I first started. And then you fast forward to today, I'm a CEO and a founder. So, boys, I can proudly tell you, I became the doctor and the CEO my aunties wanted me to marry.
Heck yeah. That
Nice.
is
And
what's up.
and a part of our values in my team, I think every good company you should have a values and mission, is what we call sadaka, and it's giving back. And we give back to organizations that are empowering women and girls in education from kindergarten all the way to the C-suite. We really believe that women should have access to education, mentorship, and leadership, especially in the fields of science, technology, engineering, math, and medicine. So that's what it means to be a STEMinist. And now I'm bougie, as you all know. So I'm going to have designer high heels on my feet while I'm
Gotta
doing
have the
this.
stilettos.
Yes.
Nice. You're
Heck yeah.
you're chasing and accomplishing a mission in style. That
That's
is a
right.
good move
Class.
right there.
Yes. And our
Class.
5-minute TED Talk is done with a snap of the heels, and we are done, brothers. Thank you.
Heck yeah. Well,
Yep.
that's so cool.
Yeah, I like it. Okay, so that gives the background of like that mindset that you carry, which is great. I can see how personally branding there is probably very strong for you. But there's this transition that happened at some point where you went from neurologist to CEO. So what did that look like for you?
That wasn't sexy or stylish at all, gentlemen.
Yeah,
Mm,
never is.
You
real
know,
talk here, folks.
yeah, some Dr. Romie real talk. And people may roll their eyes hearing this story, but I want people to know this was back in 2008, 9, and 10. I was faculty, a professor at a medical school that was hesitant to hire me. They really didn't typically hire women as faculty in the neuroscience division. And I was struggling. I'm a brain doctor and I didn't know what was going on. It was like someone had hijacked my brain cells, my cognition, my mood, my physical health deteriorated. The term now is called burnout. Back then, they didn't have that term for it. I ended up so sick from the stress and burning the candle at both ends. Remember, I wasn't only a doctor working 100 hours a week seeing patients. I was a very well known researcher researching the effect of hormones on women's brains, as well as teaching medical students and interns and residents. And so, doing
Wow.
all of that in heels and ended up very sick and in life saving surgery. And I'm literally in the hospital recovering. So I pause always here in the story to give gratitude to the cardiothoracic surgery team at University of Washington, Seattle. They saved my life. But I remember being in the hospital thinking nothing I've learned in medical school is going to help me move forward. What do I do? And back before there were iPhones and a yoga studio on every street corner, and there wasn't everybody's favorite medical school called YouTube online, I found a path from our extended family to mindfulness and meditation and the holistic healing traditions of the world. And what I thought was healing for myself, traveling to Eastern Asia and sitting with the monks and learning mindfulness and meditation, and going to South Asia to learn Ayurveda and herbs, and South America to work with shamans. Somewhere along the way, I realized, oh my gosh, there's a better way to help people's brain and mental health, is to bring the Eastern and Western medicine together. So I came back. I got a board certification in integrative medicine. For those of you not in the medical field, it's almost like I did two PhDs. I spent my entire 20s learning neurology, neurophysiology, epilepsy, and then did an about face at the end of my 30s to learn integrative medicine. So it's having like two full careers saying, okay,
Wow.
how am I going to change the world now? In heels.
Man,
Holy
that's such a
cow.
cool
What a
journey.
story.
And like what a meshing of worlds. Like
Yeah.
did you find that there was resistance when you came back to the Western world with this Eastern
Yeah.
approach influencing it?
Yeah, I feel like I would have just thrown in the towel at that point. Like, I mean,
It was
yeah, how did
scary.
you navigate
I
that?
knew I was becoming an entrepreneur and I didn't know what that meant. There weren't teams like
Ah,
you all to help thought leaders like me back then. So what happened was I did integrative medicine. People always want to know how the start happens. And I stepped in for one of my faculty members to give a lecture at a big women's advertising conference on mindfulness and meditation. And this was before it was a thing. This was like back in 2013. Ariana
uh,
Huffington was still at the helm of the Huffington Post, and her team of editors were there. And they were like, your story is really good. You need to share it. So, my first article ever in media from, burnt out physician to mindful MD gets published in the Huffington Post. And I get invited to give a TED talk. And it went in those days viral. And as a doctor, I learned when you go viral, it has nothing to do with infectious disease. And companies started to call me, and professional athletes and associations to come teach this, because they were like, wait, our people are stressed. This is really forward thinking. And guys, I had no idea what that I was. I loved speaking since childhood, but at this point, I was in Orlando seeing patients in an integrative medicine clinic, and this opportunity to share my message and mission in a bigger way had presented itself. But here's the thing, to go back to your question, guys, is when my TED talk came out and that article, and my colleagues in traditional medicine saw what I was doing, there was a lot of shame. I mean, I call it this. It was like
yeah.
energetically, they were throwing tomatoes at my LinkedIn profile. Like, we trained you all these years. What are you doing? Come back to academic medicine. You're a neurologist. This is nonsense. This is crazy. So in that world, I wasn't accepted. But here's the worst part. I thought, okay, in the meditation mindfulness community and yoga community, I'll get accepted. But then they had their misgivings about traditional medicine because, guys, at the core, I'm a STEMinist. I was loving the science behind meditation and yoga and Ayurveda I was reading, but like I didn't fit in anybody's world. And so if anybody is listening right now and you're like, girl, I hear you, I fit in nobody's world, like you're not alone. That is the recipe for being a disruptor and an entrepreneur.
Heck yeah.
Oh, true that. Holy cow.
Wow.
Provided that somebody is willing to seize the opportunity that's in front of them. There's a
Yeah.
lot of people that miss the things that stare them in the face because it's hard and
Yeah.
scary and challenging
Yes.
and you have to go your own way.
Ooh.
And
And do you want a brain science fact here?
Yeah,
yes,
I
always.
guarantee you, each and every one of you at Speaker Flow and everybody on my team, we actually have a gene that is turned on for risk taking. Most entrepreneurs who actually have the idea leave a conventional setting like all of us did and move forward and succeed and persevere through everything we were all just talking about that we all went through the last few years. It means we've got that gene. Isn't that so cool?
Wow, that's
wow.
fun. Like
Yes.
that's like there's a real gene for that.
Yes. And I'm
Oh
blanking
my
on it right now,
goodness.
but we'll get it to the show notes.
Okay,
Okay, deal.
fantastic. Wow, I'm gonna send me some research on that. I'm very excited to dig in. I
Yeah.
thought it was just like some abstract thing.
Yeah, I think
Wow.
that it's easy to think, and I'm using poor terms here because I'm dumb, so bear with me. But I
You
think
are
there's
not,
like,
child. You've been a brilliant addition to my
uh,
consulting and my
oh,
business. No,
thank you.
no.
I appreciate you. But I think in the business world, there's so much emphasis given to what I guess you could compare to like the nature versus nurture debate, that an entrepreneur is built from the ground up by the person's
Right.
sheer will and desire to do so. Whereas you maybe just presented a concept that's a little contrary to that, which is that some people are naturally more inclined to do that work than others.
Yeah.
Huh.
I think it's
Fascinating.
both. We're going to find it's a both and,
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's not
yeah,
either
totally.
or. It's
Yeah.
both
That makes
and
sense.
because if you look at my risk taking in the story, I had support from
Yeah.
elders in my community, but I grew up in a childhood at the time little girls were sent to home ec class to make pancakes. Now, y'all, I ain't going to lie. I still don't know how to make a good pancake, but I can hire that
It's
out.
okay.
That's
Yeah.
not the best. It
You
is a
know where to
fucking
go
skill.
find a good pancake. That's
Right?
what matters.
It was
Yeah.
important that I did calculus and physics and got into med school, y'all, And so
Fair enough.
there was always this going against the grain and risk taking. The only girl in advanced calculus, the only woman in neurology, even now, y'all, like it's 2022. We've gone through a Me Too movement and Black Lives Matter, and corporations are talking about diversity, equity, inclusion, and they genuinely mean it. But when there's a convention, I am still typically the only female in the lineup as far as
Wow.
authority or, the edutainment speakers. They may have a female journalist that's now an MC, but I'm still typically the only female authority speaker in the lineup.
Wow.
You're paving the way,
That's
Romy.
fascinating.
Respect.
Paving the way. That's
Well,
right.
and
So
thank you.
here's a question. So we've got all this backstory, and it seemed like the idea of being a thought leader with the TED Talk, writing the article, it just we kind of just stumbled into it. Like, when did you say like this is now something that I'm gonna turn into a full business? That kind of happened naturally. Did someone encourage you to do that when you had the TED Talk? Did that already on your mind, turning into a full business and starting the speaking and consulting? Like, where was that transition? How did that happen?
No, it's such a great business question that I feel like I should have a very thoughtful, well planned out answer for the both of you, considering what speaker flow is. But I'm going to take it to a mindfulness moment. Is I remember I grew up in Illinois and we grew up watching Oprah Winfrey on WGN News. And we watched 2020 growing up when Barbara Walters and Connie Chung were on. And I remember being home from school the day Oprah Winfrey went national. And I remember turning to my mother going, I want to grow up to be on TV and on the news. I mean, I had Oprah and Connie Chung and Barbara Walters modeling it for me. And I had a very traditional Asian mama. Are you out of your mind? They are not going to put a brown girl on TV. We have one daughter and you will become a doctor. So I will honestly tell you, there was this intuition from childhood that I would have a public platform. And so when people started to invite me to speak. And trust me, I did everything wrong when it came to contracts and my fees. People were inviting me and I had something to say. I didn't have all those things polished, like the processes you teach or the storytelling yet. We'll get to that in a second. But what made me realize I needed to do this had nothing to do with business. It had to do with mission. In that I was sitting in this integrative medicine clinic in Orlando, seeing athletes that had plateaued on their peak performance or C suite executives who are burned out like me. And I'm like, I can't get anywhere seeing these people one to one. I love helping them, but I'm making massive impact when I'm in a ballroom with, 1 to 5,000, leaders in a company. And then I get to come back in and coach their executive C suite team. And then we see organizational change happening. It was the mission that drove me to speak. I will tell you, it took me years to get the business stuff pulled together on the back end.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, I think there's something to be said about value leading the way. I mean, we talked
Right.
about that when we were talking about this whole pandemic situation, that doing the thing that makes the impact for people is the thing that
Yeah.
connects the bridges between where we're at and where we want to be. So that's huge. Um, I'm I'm wondering, like, what was like the mindset shift for you that had to happen to take the idea that people were seeing as valuable and then scale that to the masses? Like, I guess
Yeah.
maybe the question I'm getting at here is, was it the message itself that blossomed, or was it that you then became good at communicating that with people and the marketing efforts and things sort of picked up
Yeah.
and ran with it from there? So was it organic, or did you construct
Both.
it at some point?
I think both. It started to be organic and pick up, and then I realized I was not doing well, and I didn't want to get on a track to burnout because I'm running a integrative medicine practice and seeing high level patients who are very high touch, right? That can be demanding. And then the speaking and traveling career was taking off, and you know. So that, like, I'd be traveling on the road to speak to XYZ company, and then I'm getting called by patients. And I thought, one, my time is not being used well. And then when you looked at the finances, I was putting 150% into both and not yielding that. I was so blessed. And I would love to put a link to her latest book. The day I gave my TED Talk, Pamela Slim, who is a award-winning entrepreneur, a long-standing, I think she's the coach's coach. She's helped build businesses like for Brene Brown and Susan Cain. And she gave a TED talk the same day I did, and we became friends. And I remember just reaching out to her saying, "Hey, I know you've helped these other thought leaders. I don't know what to do." And that was the first time I realized you need a business coach. And I hired her immediately. And then when I was open to this mindset that I need to run a business along with growing this mission, it just became of a percentage of my business every year is being invested into it. And so at some point, it was like, I need coaching on branding and messaging. I need coaching on running a speaking business, and then coaching on how to be a better speaker. And it sounds like an easy recipe, but I will tell you all, one, that cost a lot of money. And two, that was like a 2 to 3 year process that was happening for me to build this business, probably between about 2015 and 2018. And the time that we just realized I am Dr. Romie, the brand, working business to business, was in 2018. And something that I never could have imagined happened at that point. But I'll pause to let you ask me more questions there. But I hope that answers that, people often think they're going to come in and work with you all for 6 months and get it done, or that they're
Yeah.
going to get on a call with me, which, by the way, I don't do pick your brain calls. This is why we're doing this podcast. And I'm going to give them a recipe. But it took time to do all of
Yeah.
this. Don't you all agree? I mean,
Well,
Time and
there's yeah,
iteration.
and iteration. Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
well, everyone has just a different position, a
Mhm,
different strengths and weaknesses, and
mhm.
like running a business includes all of those things that we need to do. But what are you good at versus what are you not, and how do you improve your process and figure out the things you love doing versus the things you don't really love doing, so you can bring the right resources to the table. I mean, man, if everyone had a recipe for this, like we would just be making pancakes all the time. But there's no
No,
recipe
no,
for
baby.
this, you
You
know?
make pancakes and I will teach you both calculus and physics. How's that?
That's
Deal.
great. Yeah,
Love
for
the handoff.
sure.
Yeah, that sounds
That's
awesome.
right. Yeah.
I don't know what I'm more excited about though, the pancakes or the calculus. I think I
That's
have
okay.
leanings in one direction, but I won't say
That's
that.
okay.
Yeah.
I'm not offended. You know, I'm a unique bird out here in STEMinist where brain science excites me, but carbs do, just not
Yeah.
cooking.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, fair enough.
So I'm definitely curious about some of like the logistics and how you run your
Ask me
business
anything.
and so on.
Yeah.
But I'd love some like just a little bit more context in terms of what you actually deliver. Because Taylor and I were talking about you before the show and what we wanted to talk to you about. And we
Yeah.
think that you're a really good example of this idea of like
Right.
same candy bar, different wrapper, where you're taking this content, this philosophical belief on the world that you have that changes lives. And then you're framing it up in different ways based on the context. Maybe it's speaking, maybe it's these consulting deals you have. I think there's some
Yes.
technology on the horizon that maybe we talk about. So like there's all these things that you do that are helping people with the core thing that you have, right? So can you
Yes.
give people a sense of like what are the components of your business and how do
I
they
would
work
love
together?
I still want to start with this. It starts with the mission. And my moonshot right now is we're going to change workplaces, that companies will always first assess their people's brain power, their cognition, and their mental health before saying, this is your role or your to do list today at work.
Wow.
That's my moonshot. That's brain shift, whole person wellness for your brain, body, and team. So that's my mission. And it's how am I delivering that mission? And right now it falls into three buckets and we're about to get a fourth. So the pandemic, I just want to backtrack. Prior, this may sound normal in a post-pandemic or current pandemic world. Prior to the pandemic, I was that out of box speaker. I was getting called to companies like Fidelity and Google who are saying, we've heard every speaker that's out there, give us something different to the bureaus, right? I was way out there. Now there's a demand for wellness speakers. So one thing I want to make clear, I was succeeding with a multi six-figure business before this topic was trendy. Now you move in today. What are my buckets today? One, people want to understand how to take care of comprehensive wellness of their individual employees and teams. You hire me as a keynote speaker. That's bucket number one. Bucket number two is I get hired for our Brain Shift at Work program. It is a comprehensive wellness program. People call and they say, Dr. Romie, we, have these apps or we have this wellness program. Less than 5% of the employees are logging in. What can you do? I have a live 8-week program that I run with teams, and we get measurable results to help restore sleep and sanity and a sense of connection with teams who are still, most of my clients are largely virtual or hybrid. So that's number two. Number three, I get hired as a corporate wellness consultant. So whether people are working with me from typically it's 6 to 12 months, and once they do that, they become ongoing clients. And we're looking at higher level strategies now. I'm rolling things out and one of my favorite companies where I've been a consultant since 2018. I'm consulting as a C-suite executive. I'm the chief wellness officer of Evolution Hospitality. My job and what I did was to create a customized mindfulness program for the company, scale it to over 7,000 employees, create a cultural movement, and then now we're working on their wellness initiatives the last 2 years. So really, I want to highlight when you're a STEMinist, type A, neurotic, unapologetic, success-driven professional, for most people, being a chief wellness officer is your only job. And that consulting money, that probably could have been that, but my mission is bigger than that. And I took what I'm learning as a C-suite leader at Evo, and this is why other companies are calling me to speak and deliver this 8-week program and consult. It's how do you create a culture of wellness in your companies? And that's what I'm getting hired to do. And so those are the three arms of my business. Speaking, that 1 or 2 hours, whatever you get hired for, an 8-week wellness program or long-term consulting.
Nice.
Man,
Wow.
you're so clear.
Yep.
Props for that.
You can tell you've been through the iteration process.
But aren't you
for
all
sure.
proud of how clear I am compared to when you all
Yes, of
first did my
course. So
intro?
proud.
That's
Yes.
Really good.
Thank you all for
Yes.
the help. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, from whatever. Glad
Happy
we
to
can help, you
contribute.
know?
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
You know,
Okay,
we hear
so-
from bureaus all the time. I'll point this out before you go,
Yeah.
Taylor, but and this is for everybody listening too, but the most attractive speakers for like a bureau, let's say, and I think you could then extend that to anybody that buys and sells speakers, meeting
Yep.
planners and the rest of them. They're looking for thought leader practitioners, people that not only have the ideas, but go out and demonstrate their effectiveness in the world. And so, what's cool about you, and I imagine something that contributes to the authority that you carry, is this ability for you to not only teach the subject and help communicate the concepts in a way that people can take and run with it, but you're also doing it yourself in a consultative effect with these clients, Evo being one of them, obviously. And so, you're in that perfect sweet spot
Thank
there,
you.
which is
It
great.
is.
And people
And
should
it's
strive for that.
and what I want, I think, especially women who are listening to this podcast to hear is please step into that authority because
Hmm.
one of the reasons I wanted to partner with you all and be on your podcast was I get sidelined by women doctors and lawyers and C-suite executives that are thinking of leaving their careers, thinking speaking is this new shiny object. And one thing they don't do is step into their authority. Somebody will come along and rebrand them as the confidence coach. And there's no mention that they're a lawyer with an MBA or a triple board certified doctor like I am, or they've had decades in the C suite at a Fortune 50 company. And so I really want to highlight what you just said so eloquently step into your authority.
Yeah, heck yeah. I think that one of the biggest, I think this kind of plays into what you were saying, but misconceptions is that like it's funny because so many people like say speaking business, but as you've illustrated in your business, it's an arm to the business. It's a way
Yeah.
you deliver your
Yeah.
thought leadership. It's not like I'm a speaker, I'm a coach, those are just delivery mechanisms. Like
Yes.
you're an authority in this particular
Yeah.
space. This is how you help. It's true demonstration of thought leadership. And I think you're like to Austin's point earlier, like you're the perfect example of
Thank
what
you.
thought leadership truly means. Yeah, you speak and you
Mhm.
consult and you have a program and we're working on products as well. Like that, but you're not just only one of those things. And so I think everything you just kind of pointed out alludes to this being truly about being a thought leader and
Yeah.
not so much only a speaker, for
I
example.
agree. And thank you for highlighting that because there are a lot of people who are very successful at, quote, being a professional speaker. But
Right.
when I see some of my colleagues who are doing it and doing it well, they're constantly changing their subject matter.
Yeah.
And one thing in today's world, in the competitive market of high end speaking, I think where I fall is people want to hire the thought leader. I will say we were talking earlier that I'm often the only woman in the lineup. Even when there are other people, I'm often still the only person that has all the polished rules of speaking that you all know about. I didn't know, even though I was on speech and debate in high school, I still got a lot of coaching and still do now on messaging and how to structure a keynote and how to tell stories. And that makes me memorable and gets me hired again, or the bureaus get like rave reviews. But there are a lot of thought leaders that got hired to speak. I mean, they made a PowerPoint that even my mom and dad could do better with, like
Yeah.
and the storytelling knows. So while all that is crucial, um, it's your thought leadership that really to anchor in.
Heck yeah. Wow. That's
Good
great.
mindset.
Okay. Man, we gotta have ultra long episodes, Austin. I feel like
I
we talk
know,
about this
right?
every
My
time. It's just
gosh.
time goes by. Yeah. Okay. So, one question, final one. So, you've built a tremendously successful business. Where are you going from here with it?
Oh, I'm so loving that I get to share it with the both of you because you both and the entire Speaker Flow team kind of model what it's like to be a male ally. And as a STEMinist, I need that in the world. I think what's different about Dr. Romie today, back in the days of neurology, there was a glass ceiling and I was beating it down with my high heel shoe. Let me in, I got ideas. Today, I'm walking up to the next glass ceiling, but this time just steaming up the glass and typing it, like writing in with my finger, "Hey, it's Romy, what's up?" And let me tell you what that is. In 2019 and 2020, there were a lot of startups in what's known as the med tech space, a tech startup that is in the medical healthcare profession. Not a single one of them that were funded by venture capitalists were founded by a woman.
Whoa.
Wow.
So that is the next place that I am out loud. Sometimes I'm nervous telling you. You can see my voice is quivering a little bit, but I'm so thankful you both are here to receive it. And brain shift, we had to deliver wellness programs virtually. My team worked so hard. We bootstrapped together a tech platform to deliver this entire thing. It's not just me talking. People get their labs, they go through our IP. So the last 2.5 years, I have two things: both scientific proof of concept that the BrainShift 8-week workplace wellness works to heal burnout. And number two, we have proof of concept that the tech platform works. And by the way, for any of you that are in the tech space or follow the tech news, I need you to know I've been in the room with men. All they have to do is have an idea on a napkin and they get tens and millions of dollars in funding. I was told, oh, that's a cute idea, little lady. Go back and build it and prove it. So I need you to, I went back and built it. So
Heck
that's my
yeah.
next step is, God willing, guys. You're talking to a female founder of a med tech startup. God willing is where we're transitioning in the next 18 months.
Wow.
Amazing.
Oh my gosh.
Holy, what a venture.
I know. You're on a rocket ship, Romie.
Seriously.
Yeah.
I can't, I
that's
feel like we're
wild.
at I don't know, the presence of a legend. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Austin, how do we end up
Thank
here,
you,
man?
Honor.
Like, what are we
But
doing? Like,
here's the one thing. Can I be also have honesty too? Is I love that Forbes celebrates 30 under 30 and all of that, but I'm just a few years shy of my 50th birthday. So I think no matter what age or stage you're at your life, you can always write the next chapter.
Yeah.
And it is. But before I do that, I've had some health challenges this year. And I learned I too had to brain shift, get my brain in order, get my body in order. I've been spending 2 years getting my team in order and being a better leader. So before I build this, I had to do all of that and practice what I preach. So
Foundation.
yeah, we've got investors interested and we're starting to have initial conversations. So I promise to come back on the podcast and give you updates in about 18 months of where we are.
I can't
Oh,
wait.
It's
Heck
going to be
yes.
monumental.
Monumental for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so Dr. Romie, thank you so much for being you, contributing to the world, coming onto the show and providing so much value.
I'm so honored to be here on your podcast.
Yeah, for sure. So, is there anything you have to share with our
Yeah.
audience that they could like benefit from? Where can they,
Two
get more of
things.
the stuff
Yeah.
here?
Two things. If my story of burnout is resonating with you and you're stuck in the pandemic and ready to turn the next chapter in your book, we have our busy brain test that takes you get scored on where your stress levels are, you're near burnout, and you get some free resources that are based in our brain shift protocol of how to start getting help. The second thing I have that I really wanted to share along with this podcast is when I speak, so many of you that are thought leaders and authorities yourself are like, Dr. Romie, I want to speak. So along with this podcast, we have a link to a article. I no longer can take the time in my schedule to do pick your brain calls. So we're going to link an article on my website about Dr. Romie Real Talk about professional speaking. And it really just breaks down what you need to know about running a business, what I invested in, and I'll be honest, I think 50%, 75% of people read that article and decide, oh, okay, it's not an easy, shiny object. And we have resources there, some that are free, some are paid. I'm not an affiliate, including links to all the great resources you all provide at SpeakerFlow.
Oh,
Heck yeah.
thanks.
Well, thanks for the love. And of course, those links are in the show notes, guys. Go check it out. Definitely explore the test. That is an incredible resource for you. And I think we can all feel busy brains sometimes. So definitely go check that out. Dr. Romie, thank you again for coming on the show. And guys, if you like this episode, don't forget to rate it, like it, subscribe to it. And if you want more awesome resources like this, go to speakerflow.com/resources.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks for tuning in today. Check the show notes for more info and see you next time. Later.